This is an improvement in terms of letting players try the game, but it also creates two classes of players, those that can afford to pay the subscription and those that can't. Yes, but you're already admitting that there would have been people excluded in the first place. So those that can't are no longer excluded from the game. Yo, what's up? So last month I talked about an upcoming MMO called BitCraft that was going to enter like alpha or like pre-alpha state pretty soon. And they put an article up on their webpage talking about their thoughts on monetization. So I thought it'd be interesting to go over this and talk about some of the things about this article that are good, some of the things that are bad, and just general opinions overall. So let's go ahead and get into that. And if you don't remember, BitCraft is that open world procedurally generated crafting based MMO that basically looks like it's played on hexagons. So just a quick reminder of what it's about. In the days since the announcement, we've understandably gotten quite a few questions regarding how we plan to monetize BitCraft. Monetization for a game is one of the most important things to get right, not only for the company and the success of the game, but also for the community, because it's such a complex topic and is sometimes associated with strong emotions. I wanted to share with you our analysis of the current state of monetization in games and our philosophy on monetization. Okay, so you have to take with a grain of salt anytime a company tells you their philosophy on monetization because a company's main incentive is to make as much money as possible. So this is already going to be biased. And of course, I guess a consumer's point of view will be biased because they want to spend as little money as possible. But generally, when you have two different people or groups with opposite interests competing, and the group that's interest is opposite of yours is telling you what they think of something, it's going to not align with what you believe or not align with what you care about. Usually, not always, usually. So that's why it's a little bit different if you're a consumer and another consumer is telling you about monetization versus you as a consumer and a company trying to sell you something telling you about monetization. That's why it's a little bit different. And I suppose even a third party who is neither a consumer of anything that a particular company would sell, nor is it the company themselves would be probably the best, but rarely is that the case because no third party is going to really care enough. We usually talk about monetization in games through terms like buy to play, subscription, free to play, pay to win, pay to progress, etc. However, rather than just categorizing games into these broad monetization schemes, I'd like to instead try to arrive at a deeper understanding of game monetization by taking a look into what has historically been monetized in games. That is to say, what are the things that game companies are selling and what are the gameplay impacts of selling those things? Okay, so like any category, these broader terms were created just to help people understand a very general type of thing and then to label something as that type of thing. So, for example, buy to play. You buy the game, you play it. Pretty much every game for most of history until like they started adding subscription based games and stuff like that, right? So, that's why these categories are created. So, you can disagree with some of them on like fringe levels, but at the core, they're all still going to hold pretty true. Some games even dip into all three, right? Like World of Warcraft, you have to buy the game to play it, so there's a box price, and then you have to pay a subscription to play it. And then there are some, pay to win elements, I would argue, such as being able to purchase in-game currency from Blizzard directly. So some companies have dipped into multiple of these. But regardless, the reason that these categories were created were just to quickly explain to people how a monetization from a company is working, right? So let's see how they're going to deconstruct this. When you monetize a given aspect of a game, it will have both positive and negative impacts on not only the gameplay, but also the company and community. Additionally, monetization is inseparable from game design. It's impossible to change one without affecting the other. It's absolutely critical to get it right to have a long running game that players love. And I mostly agree. You probably have to think about the monetization from the beginning, especially if you're going to do something that's not buy to play. If you're going to do something that's, say, pay to win, you need to think about what aspects if you're a developer, you need to think about what aspects are going to be pay to win, right? Now, there could be some argument that if you're going to do a subscription based model, you need to talk about a delivery cadence. So, why would people stay subscribed to your game? You need to be delivering more stuff as the game continues to develop, right? So, that's obviously something else that you need to talk about. So, yes, obviously, the monetization method needs to be determined early on, and aspects of the game are absolutely going to revolve around that monetization decision. Now, that's not to say that game companies can't change the monetization partway through. We've seen plenty of games that didn't perform well just go free to play. So sometimes it works when they change, but most of the time you're probably going to have to work around whatever your monetization is. Let's start by listing some of the commonly monetized aspects of games, i.e., the things that games sell. This list is not exhaustive, but covers many of the more popular things to monetize the game itself, of course. Access to the game or live services, right? Early access to the game. Now, this is starting to border into like pay to win, pay for convenience kind of stuff. Cosmetics. Yes, this is very, very common in games that are long lasting. Even games that aren't long lasting, you can buy cosmetics. Even sometimes, like pre order access or like pre orders give you cosmetics, right? So, stuff like that. Collectible characters. Yeah, some like Genshin Impact, for example, has their monetization really focused around these collectible characters and leveling them up and stuff like that. Convenience features, including better UI, minor advantages like extra storage, and removing tedium. I don't know if I would say these are minor advantages, okay? I would say convenience features are always pay to win. Fight me. Ability to progress faster. Again, this probably goes under convenience items, but also I would argue is pay to win. In-game currency, again, this creates a system where markets are almost useless, like in World of Warcraft. You can buy anything with real money because of the way that you can just buy the coin and how you can carry people through those things. You can look at Bellular's video regarding that. Items, which otherwise have earned through time, effort, or skill, and this is directly pay to win. Less commonly, games will also sell access to exclusive clubs, ability to run organizations like guilds. It's important to distinguish these things from monetization schemes. Um, Maybe, yeah, I would say that these aren't like monetization schemes themselves, but they definitely factor into the monetization. We define monetization schemes as clever ways to more efficiently monetize the things listed above, e.g., premium currencies, subscription token schemes, loot boxes, etc. I feel like now your distinction is breaking down. So if you're talking about like more efficient ways of doing this, then even introducing this into the game is a more efficient way of monetizing your game most of the time. So I disagree with this distinction, but okay. For example, in the case of subscription tokens, the company is selling game access in a way that is transferable to other players. The company will is still selling game access in the end. Yes, they're double, triple, quadruple, double dipping, and it's like, yeah, it becomes crazy, right? There's a lot of to be said on monetization schemes, but they deserve their own blog post, okay? At the end of the day, as a developer, monetization always comes down to exchanging things in your game that players want for money. Yeah, let's go through a few of these to see some examples of pros and cons of monetizing certain aspects of a game. Monetizing the game itself. Monetizing the game itself has one major upside, which is that everyone who plays the game gets exactly the same thing, the game. Not always, like I said, sometimes you have to pay for the game and a subscription. Assuming this is the only monetization for the game, that puts everyone on level playing field, as long as you can get into the field in the first place. I guess, yeah. This is a huge win because it's very easy to design a balanced game around this assumption. Unfortunately, it has several significant downsides for players, the community, and the company. The biggest and most obvious downside is that the immediately reduces the size of the game's community. Not only do you have to pay, but you have to convince your friends that they should pay too if you want to play together with them. It excludes a huge number of people who would play and contribute to the game community but can't afford it or want to try before they buy. If your game is a game that thrives on having a bustling community, it doesn't help to have an entrance fee. True, I guess. Although, I mean, this has kind of been proven wrong over and over, right? If you just have like New World, box price, World of Warcraft, box price, Final Fantasy 14, box price. So they've created huge communities, albeit they have large names behind them, but they have a box price. Players also cannot see what the game is all about before actually buying the game. This leads to scenarios where the player is upset that they didn't get what they were expecting. True. Not least because the companies often inflate player expectations in the first place. Very true. For the company, if selling the game is the exclusive monetization mechanism, it doesn't allow them to run the game as a live service because all of the revenue is collected up front, and they don't have incentive to improve the game in in perpetuity. Yeah, this is absolutely true. When you only have a box price, why would the company care about continuing to improve the game, right? Nobody cares, and except for the idea that if the game is good, then more people might buy in. But you're never going to have as many people buy in later as they do at the beginning. So, the only reason you'd continue to update is if one, you have a future plan for another game, and if you don't update this game, then a lot of people will be like, well, you didn't update the last game, why would I pay for this one? And two is if you have some other kind of monetization in there, such as the ability to purchase cosmetics, stuff like that. As a result, selling the game itself frequently results in the game being re released seasonally as a new title. Monetizing access to the game or live service. Monetizing access to a live service through subscription or similar mechanism is similar to selling the game itself. It has many of the same pros, level playing field, and cons, smaller community, but it does allow the company to continuously fund development of the game indefinitely. Yeah, true. I think this is the best monetization method, honestly. I think Bellular calls this games as a service as opposed to systems as a service. So, yeah. Some additional pros are that paying for a live service reduces the chance that players' expectations will be out of whack. Since they're not paying for everything all up front, it forces the developer to make the game that remains fun for years. True. If the game stops being fun and players don't like the game, they won't keep playing, obviously. And that's why I think this is the best monetization method because one, it guarantees the company continues to get funded, and it also guarantees that the players continue to get updates to their game. I think it's a win win, to be honest, but let's see what their cons are. One variation of monetizing access to a live service is monetizing access to part of the live service, usually by creating a members only region of the world or by making certain aspects of the gameplay exclusive to those a subscription, such as RuneScape. And I think RuneScape actually does well. So if you have a free version of the game that people can play, they can see if they like the game before they spend even a penny. They don't have to spend a single thing. And then if they do like it, then they can subscribe monthly and experience the entire game. And whenever they're bored of it, they can cancel their subscription. It forces the company to care, forces the company to continue to update, and it keeps the company funded. So it's really good. This is an improvement in terms of letting players try the game, but it also creates two classes of players: those that can afford to pay the subscription and those that can't. Yes, but you're already admitting that there would have been people excluded in the first place. So those that can't are no longer excluded from the game, right? Um, so if you couldn't afford the game, you wouldn't have even been able to play it ever. But now that you can try the free version, you are now part of the community. You might be a lesser part of the community, but you're still in the community. So it's already a win. Like this point is moot. If this is viewed as just giving players a free trial until they subscribe, then this is basically the same as a subscription model. But if the idea is to allow players to play as a free player indefinitely, then viewed from this perspective, this is a pretty egregious form of pay for convenience and pay to win. No, it's absolutely not. It is absolutely not. Because if this were pay to win or pay for convenience, then you would have to admit that people are paying for the privilege of being better at the game or gaining some kind of advantage in the game when really they're paying to play the game, right? They're not like this. I don't think anybody would say that this is pay to win. Pay to win would be like if the game was free to play and every aspect of the game was free to play except for the best weapon in the game. That's pay to win, okay? And that's a lot different than saying, hey, we made this awesome game. It's going to be subscription based, but if you can't afford the subscription or you just want to try it out a little bit, then there's this little zone that has pretty much everything that was intentionally added in the game at the start. You can go play there. You can go try it out. You can level up almost everything to max. And this is the same for Final Fantasy, right? You could play through like the first all the way through the first like one or two expansions for free. You can't trade, but that's to prevent people from doing like RMT stuff, So I don't think that this is bad at all, right? You wouldn't say that allowing people to play through the first two expansions of your game for free is pay to win, especially when those games originally had to have a box price and you had to be subscribed. But now that they're, you know, older content, they just open them up for free so anybody can play. That's not pay to win. That's not pay for convenience. That's the company offering a service or a product for free. Subscribing players usually have a significant advantage over free to play players in almost every facet of the game. Right, but this is the difference, right? We're not saying that the free to play users are actually experiencing the full game. We're saying that the free to play users are experiencing part of the game out of the like I guess niceness. I don't know if niceness is the right word because really what's happening is the company's hoping that you enjoy the game enough to pay. But either way, we're not saying that the like paying players have significant advantage over them, which obviously they do because they have access to the full game. We're saying that the free to play players are almost demoing the game. So of course the like paying players are going to have an advantage because they're playing the full game. These people are only playing part of the game, and it was never advertised in a way that you'd be able to play the entire game for free, right? Frequently, games will grant subscribers members a faster experience gaining rate. This is bad. This is bad, I think. Or will give access to regions of the game where players gain experience much faster. This is less bad because they have to diversify their world. Now, I guess if they intentionally do this, it could be bad, but I mean, you can't just create every single thing that's in the outside world in the small area, otherwise people won't want to experience the rest of the game, right? So this is annoying. This isn't. This can even incentivize developers to make a free aspects of the game worse or less convenient in the hopes that players will subscribe. But that's not really, I guess it depends on how they do this, right? So this could be true, but usually, at least in the case of RuneScape, the aspects of the free to play version of the game as opposed to the subscription version of the game are exactly the same. They're just in a smaller area and you don't have access to all of the abilities that they added after like the launch and stuff, like so the things that people voted on and stuff like that. So like basically how this is they're saying that the free aspects of the game are worse to incentivize people to pay. But in most cases, at least in my experience, when they have this kind of model, it's not worse so that they pay. It's fun so that they pay so that they can experience the rest of the game. And I guess that would be the difference here, right? So if the game continues to be fun, even for the free to play users, so much fun that they want to pay to experience the rest of it, that's good. If it's tedious and boring, so much so that they want to pay in order to skip that tedious and boring part, that's bad. It also implies that many of your players will never experience a huge portion of the game the user developer have spent time and effort creating and disincentivizing the devs from making too much of the content accessible to players who don't purchase the subscription. That's true, but these people that are playing the free to play version would have never been able to play either way, right? Because you're saying that they couldn't afford it. So there's no bad part of this, right? I don't think that this is bad ever. If you have a small region that's free to play that people can experience a good portion, if not a majority of your game, then there's no bad about that, okay? Because these are players who wouldn't have been able to play anyway. And maybe they're a kid, and then when they're older and they have a job, then they pay to experience the rest of the game, right? Other monetizable aspects of games. Importantly, every other aspect of a game that you can monetize also comes with its own set of pros and cons, and each must be evaluated independently in the context of the game's design. That's probably true. It's probably better to value the monetization based on the context of the game. I agree with that. What works for one game doesn't necessarily work for another. Yeah. I think that one issue which arises with game monetization is that because the language surrounding monetization is so broad, it's a category. Developers are sometimes not careful about which aspects of their games they monetize. Okay, maybe, but it wouldn't really be. I guess if they're like an indie developer, right? This would be more of like a team that does this on like a bigger company, but okay. Games and particularly MMOs are inherently very complicated systems, and I think When you have a large company with people coming and going, nuance can be lost and the desire to increase monetization creeps in at the cost of good game design. True. It may not even necessarily be malicious, but simply because once you are selling things within your game, it can feel like anything is fair game to sell. That still feels malicious to me. Like if you are like selling things in your game already, you've already kind of committed to that side of monetization, right? That's why I think it's critical for that's why I think it's critical that developers clearly delineate what their philosophy is regarding what should be monetized and what should not. Okay, so I hope you're going to do that. Good. Our philosophy is this: we should avoid selling anything in game that is understood to be earned, and we should always sell things that are understood to be bought. That means literally nothing. This statement means absolutely nothing. That sounds almost like circular reasoning, but we feel it's actually an immensely important distinction. No, that is not. That means nothing. That's so arbitrary, so subjective. Since it's pretty abstract, I think it's helpful to use an analogy. We should never be in the business of selling medals of honor, and we should always be in the business of selling Lamborghinis. Yeah, but that's also arbitrary. A medal of honor represents something that can only be earned, and a Lamborghini represents something that can only be bought. Okay? Yeah, but are you just gonna model everything off of what happens in real life? So there's gonna be like you can buy trees in the game. Like I don't know what this means. Or you can buy houses in the game. Like or can you make houses? Because you can do both of those things. You can earn a house and buy a house in real life. So is it both? Like how does this work? There is no reason why these two kinds of things can't exist within the same context. Okay. Many games don't have the concept of Lamborghinis. Their entire game is built around the concept of earning things. Yeah, because people don't like the idea, usually, that if you can have something influence a game from the outside, that kind of breaks their immersion from the world, right? Like, so if you can have the best house, you can have the best weapon in the game because you purchased it, that is an influence outside the game, right? That feels really bad. People don't like that because now it's like you're breaking their immersion from the game and you're heavily disincentivizing people who don't have enough money from playing the game. Their entire game is built around the concept of earning things through gameplay. So when they go to monetize their game, they run into trouble. Do they sell their Medal of Honors? No, never do that. Many games say, of course, we won't sell them, but we will sell things that make it easier to get them. Yeah, don't do that either. This undermines the very concept of Medal of Honors. Exactly. The point of the Medal of Honor is that it can only be earned. Exactly. Lowering the bar for those willing to pay is almost as bad as selling them directly. It's pretty much as bad, to be honest. It's equivalent to saying, well, a lot of cheating is bad, but it is really that bad if we allow little cheating. True. This is indeed the basis of a lot of pay for convenience seen in MMOs these days. Yeah, that's why I think pay for convenience is the same as pay to win. Mixing these concepts is how we believe pay to win can begin to creep into every facet of a game and dilute the value of playing the game. No, but I think that even thinking this is already predatory, right? Like you already like it's hard for me to imagine that as a developer who's been in the space long enough that you couldn't see how this is already predatory. Mixing these concepts is how we believe pay to win can begin to creep into into every facet of a game and dilute the value of playing the game. The problem is not that people are paying to get at something they want, it's that people are paying to get what you were led to believe could be earned. Yeah, I agree. It's like what your perceived value of something is, right? If you think that you can only get something by being really good at the game, that the value of having that is really high. But if you can just pay something that doesn't exist within the game, like real world money, it like who cares then? It doesn't matter. Does that mean people don't want Lamborghinis because they can't get a Medal of Honor? No, but they want to be able to earn things in the game and buy things in the game, right? Not from outside the game. Of course not. It just serves a different purpose. For example, if Riot Games sold the ability to climb the rankings in League of Legends, there would be no meaning to the rankings. Monetizing rankings in that case is directly counter to the purpose of rankings in the first place, and is destructive to the fun of the game. Skins in this context of League of Legends, however, are a completely different story. League skins are a great example of a perfect Lamborghini. They're great to show off, They don't help you get some other Medal of Honor, and no one expects you to have earned them. That's not true. There are some skins in the game that you earn, such as the Victorious skins by getting gold or higher. And honestly, I feel like most people would be happier if skins were available to get through rewards. The reason that they're not is because this is how Riot has decided to monetize their game, right? This is how they afford their game, and people are willing to pay for that because one, they look cool, and two, they want to like obviously help the company. So in a perfect world where money didn't mean anything, or like in a perfect world where I guess companies could operate without money, then would people be happier if skins were awarded in the game for different things as opposed to being bought? Yes, people would be happier with that. But the reason that they're okay with buying it is because everything else is free in the game. This is the only way, pretty much. I mean, they obviously have like spots on their LCS and Worlds and LEC and stuff like that for like sponsors and stuff like that. But mostly, this is how they make their money to continue developing the game. So most people understand that. Most people are okay with that. Most people are then willing to spend money on good skins. Can a game have compelling enough Lamborghinis to support the development of the game without compromising the Medal of Honors? Yes, League obviously did that, I guess. That depends entirely on the game and the game design, but it's been clearly demonstrated that it can be done successfully. I will caveat that you cannot, as a matter of game design and practicality, always draw the line so cleanly. I disagree. I think it's really easy to draw the line. It becomes especially difficult if players are able to sell things among themselves. Nope, it's not difficult. If you can't buy in game currency and the players can sell the things in the game with currency they earned in the game, then you could argue that the currency is earned and therefore whatever they bought is earned. I don't think that's that hard of a thing to understand. For example, we may not always be able to prevent players from selling their own medals of honor. You can, of course, prevent players from trading certain things, as many games have done, but in a game which is based around economics and trade, items need to be tradable. Okay, sure. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you prevent trade, players will find a way to trade outside the game for real money. Yeah, that's not really a good way of going about your game, though. You can't say, like, oh, well, it doesn't matter what we do, people are always going to do real money trading, so we're just going to allow real money trading, right? So, of course, I think it's probably impossible to completely eliminate real money trading. But if you ban it, make it a bannable offense within your game, you actively try to find instances of it, and then you actually take action against them, then you are probably going to remove the majority of it. And it's going to be very, very niche. Whereas you have something like World of Warcraft, where it used to be something that was pretty niche. Now it's something that's really bad. It's really rampant because it's not that hard to just buy gold from the company. It's even worse now than it used to be. Okay, again, go watch Bellular's video on this. It's worse because Blizzard stopped prosecuting the people doing this and kind of just said, hey, it makes us money too now. What we can always do is avoid selling medals of honor ourselves, true, so that even if players do trade them, at least in that case, the original recipient is receiving a benefit for having earned it. Exactly. Like you can have multiple types of, like, I guess they're calling them medals of honor, but like you could have different types of skill at the game, right? Like if you're really good at the market and you have a ton of money in the game, and you can use that money that you earned within the game to buy, other parts of the game that you're not so good at. I think that's perfectly fine. Then if you're really good at like the PvP of the game, then you can make your money from people who are good at the market by selling them carries in PvP. I think that's fine as long as it doesn't cross the like side of real money. It's fine because everything is earned within the game. It's self-contained. Understand that we will always try to draw the line cleanly where possible. That's always the goal we have in mind. I think it's always super easy to draw the line. I apologize for taking an analogy entirely too far, but it's the clearest way to express our philosophy in monetizing and monetization design. What does that mean for BitCraft? Given that BitCraft is a community sandbox MMORPG by this point in this long post, it should already be clear that for us, monetizing access to BitCraft is pretty much a non-starter. Long term, it will live and die by the healthiness of its community. Part of a vibrant community and bustling economy is that the world is full of people. We also believe we're building something new and interesting, and we want as many people as possible to have access to it. It simply doesn't make sense to restrict access. For those reasons alone, we believe BitCraft must be a free game at launch and remain a free service indefinitely. There's another important point to make about free access to the game. MMOs are an inherently difficult game to make. They take a lot of They take a lot of iteration and many years to perfect. Personally, I would feel much better letting players decide at what point they feel the game is good enough to spend their money in, rather than potentially misleading players up front. It gives us more room to be experimental without feeling like we've broken promises that players paid us to deliver on. In the end, I think that will result in a better final game. With regards to what we plan on selling specifically, we believe that we have some very interesting and innovative ideas in the space. But we're not ready to share the details at this time. Just know that any decision that we make with regards to monetization will be aligned with this philosophy. Thank you. Okay. So the ending is not so bad, I think. I don't know if a free to play MMO I've never seen done well, right? Like I can't even think of how you would do this because you're gonna have to sell something that people are gonna want to buy. Whereas if you just sold like a subscription or like a small box price to your game, I don't know. Like I feel like like a $5, $10 a month subscription is so standard now, not just within gamings, but within like Amazon or whatever. Like people are willing to just give it a try, especially if you give like a free to play period. You're like, okay, your first month is free. After that, it's $10 a month. They like it for a month, boom, you got it. Or like maybe like I don't know, maybe you could say like, oh, you can try the game for like 2 weeks if you think a month is too long. Like you can give like a free period of time to try the game and then just like make it like a subscription after that. I don't know why they think it has to be like free to play. I think their community will be plenty of large if it's just $10 a month because that's like most people agree that that's a pretty low amount per month. You could still get a lot of people. Of course, there's going to be some people who can't pay. That's part of capitalism, I guess. It really sucks that some people are going to not be able to enjoy it. But if you make it free to play, then you're probably going to eh, add in like pay to win or pay for convenience things that most people are not going to like, and that's going to create a pretty big problem, I think. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what they say about this. I mean, it's kind of vague, right? It didn't really talk much. They just told us their philosophy on monetization, which is fantastic, I guess. I have already made a video about pay to win in games. You go check that out if you thought this was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. If you enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about this entire article. If you think their philosophy is kind of misaligned with the consumer, or if you think that it's perfectly reasonable their takes, or anything. If you disagree with me, let me know. We can discuss in the comments. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. Peace.